True scary stories from Deschutes Forest, a cabin that ate my time and my mind. My name is Daniel Moore, a park ranger assigned to the Deschutes National Forest in Oregon. I've seen dozens of creepy stories during my career, but nothing prepared me for what happened in that wilderness cabin. The beginning, a dream turned nightmare. I loved the woods. They were my sanctuary. One day I was tasked with inspecting an old abandoned cabin near a restricted zone. Locals called it Deadwood House, said to be the site of a 1960s family murder-suicide. It wasn't even on the map. And yet I found it. Descent, losing touch with reality. From the moment I stepped into that place, my radio died. I began hearing scratching, whispering, crying children at night. Every time I left the cabin, I ended up back inside it, no matter how far I walked. It was like living inside a loop, like a curse locking me in. The abyss. Identity lost. One night during a full moon, I looked in the mirror and saw someone else. A boy with glowing red eyes. He whispered, "Your time is up. You're next." Then everything went black. When I woke up, I was outside the forest, aged and broken. The world said I had vanished for 7 years, though I thought I was gone only a few nights. The final warning: the official records deny the existence of Deadwood House, but I have the blood-stained map, the broken radio. So I leave you with this warning: if you ever hear about a lonely cabin in the Oregon woods, never go near it. This is one of many true horror stories, and not everyone lives to tell theirs. Part 2. Signals from the Other Side. I had heard plenty of creepy park ranger stories before, but I never believed them until I became one of them. In Deschutes National Forest, the locals share national park stories around campfires. Scary woods stories about people vanishing without a trace. True scary stories that stay with you like a cold shadow. After my first night at the Deadwood House, I began documenting every incident. But each morning, I'd find strange entries in red ink in my journal. Stay, stay, stay forever. The handwriting wasn't mine. I tried to leave, but the forest turned unfamiliar. My compass spun wildly. GPS gave out. I always returned to the cabin as if trapped in a cursed wilderness story, a loop, a prison. Part 3. The Loop, and Those Who Are No Longer Human. I realized I was stuck in a loop, a spatial trap made by something ancient. The scary horror stories became more vivid, more frequent. On the third night, I heard footsteps above me. I climbed into the attic. All I found was a wooden doll, holding a human tooth. I'd read stories like this in creepy stories from Reddit, especially the Let's Not Meet subreddit. I now understood what they meant by wishing they never saw what they saw. By night 4, I dreamed relentlessly, dreams filled with horror stories. Faceless figures chasing me, screaming trees, flames consuming my body. I woke up with soot on my hands. Part 4. Evidence of Those Before Me. On day 6, I found a rusted tin box in the basement. Inside, old journal pages belonging to Howard Talbot, a ranger who went missing in 1974. He wrote of being forced to stay, of voices that broke his mind, and of a door that must never open. I found that door, chained shut, dried blood at the handle, etched with a blade into the wall. If you open it, you stay forever. And I opened it. The room inside was colder than a freezer. There was a black and white photo showing five rangers. One of them was me. But the photo was dated 1967. Part 5. Shadows in the Woods. That night, I woke to singing, Not Human, a dissonant chorus from the scary wood stories outside. I pointed my flashlight. Around 30 people stood in the trees in ranger uniforms. Still, blank-eyed. All of them turned toward me at once. I slammed the door. The radio, long dead, sparked to life. Daniel, you're almost ready. It was my voice, twisted like it came from another layer of reality. Part 6. Through reality, or deeper into hell. I couldn't tell what was dream or waking anymore. The true creepy stories I once read, I was now living them. On night 8, a mirror appeared in the living room, one I'd never seen before. In the reflection, I was smiling. Behind me stood all the lost rangers. They waved me in, and I stepped forward. Part 7. Days on repeat. I no longer knew what day it was. My journal entries now looked like tally marks carved by a prisoner. Every morning I woke in Deadwood House, but the room changed slightly every time. Yesterday the carpet was red, today it was ash gray. Sometimes there were curtains, other days nothing. One morning the wall was etched with the words, "True horror stories never end." This wasn't in any park ranger stories they warned me about. I thought I was dying, or worse, trapped in a never-ending wilderness story. The scary stories I once scrolled through on Reddit, laughing nervously, now gripped me with every breath. Part 8. The mirror and my other self. That cursed mirror appeared again, but this time it moved. I woke to a dragging sound across wooden floorboards. I turned on my flashlight. The mirror was beside my bed. I looked into it and saw myself sleeping. Then I opened my eyes and smiled, a wide, grotesque grin. I screamed and threw the blanket over it. When I pulled it away, the mirror was gone. I wasn't in a physical space anymore. I was living inside one of those creepy outdoor stories, the kind that get labeled as true creepy stories in Let's Not Meet threads. Part 9. Footsteps without feet. One night I heard footsteps circling the house, light at first, then faster, then sprinting. No one was there. I scattered powder on the floor. A trick I read in a true scary story about a haunted ranger outpost in Utah. In the morning I saw the prints, but they had no toes, only rounded hoof-like shapes, and they didn't lead out. They formed a circle around my bed. Part 10. The corpse in the tree. I tried breaking the loop, venturing deeper into the forest. Every turn felt like walking through a page in one of those scary wood stories you regret reading at midnight. Near a lightning-struck tree, I found a hollow large enough to crawl in. Inside was a decayed corpse in a ranger uniform. The name tag read D. More, Me, or Another Me. Part 11. Voices that burn. On my return, I heard whispering, not loud, but clear. "You're not Daniel anymore. You're ours." Black smoke followed me back to the house. The windows now reflected things not in the room. I recorded it on my phone, but every video was blank. Like this entire true horror story existed in a space only nightmares could enter. Part 12. The Faceless Rangers, Night Turning. No moon, no stars, only fog and a dying flashlight. I opened the front door and a man stood there, ranger uniform, but no face. He raised his hand, beckoning. Behind him, dozens more, all rangers, all faceless. I remembered a creepy story from Let's Read subreddit about a second ranger unit, one that wasn't from this world. And now I was part of them. Part 13, the final transmission. The old radio crackled Morse code. I once learned it during survival training. It spelled "No one escapes." Deadwood is where all national park stories end. I shouted, "Is anyone out there?" A female voice replied, "My name is Eva. I'm a ranger from Colorado. I'm trapped too. If you can hear me, look at the east window." 3 a.m. Part 14. The East Window and Frozen Time. I didn't know who Eva was, but at 3 a.m., the east window glowed faintly. I ran. What I saw through it wasn't the forest, but a hallway, lined with portraits of missing rangers across America. I recognized dozens of faces from stories from Reddit. True stories that never had answers. Stories of disappearances in the wilderness. At the end of the hall, a door glowed. Part 15. The Hallway of Lost Time. I stepped through the door at the end of the portrait hallway, each face taken from true creepy stories and park ranger stories posted across Reddit, forgotten except by the forest. The room was freezing. The flickering lights overhead buzzed like something on life support. I touched one frame. James C. Becker, vanished in Zion National Park, 1981. I remembered that name from a Let's Not Meet thread. He was the only one from his group who never came back. No trace, only a last radio recording screaming, "Now I know." He didn't disappear. He became part of this. Part 16, room 1974. At the end, a door with the number 1974 carved into it. I recognized it immediately, Howard Talbot's year of disappearance. Inside was a wooden-paneled room furniture from the 60s. Dust covered everything, but there were no cobwebs. Someone still lived here. A cassette tape waited on the desk. I pressed play. A voice crackled, "This is Howard. If you're hearing this, welcome to Deadwood. You're one of us now. No one leaves. Only the next arrives." Laughter followed. It wasn't human. Part 17, memories not mine. I don't know when I started remembering things that didn't belong to me. I lay on the cold floor, my eyes open, but visions raced through my mind like old films. I saw myself in a ranger's uniform from 1945. I was speaking to a woman named Bethany, then secret government labs, classified projects about high-frequency anomalies buried under Deschutes forest details I only ever saw in creepy outdoor stories or conspiracy-laden national park stories. I blinked. Present day. In my hand, a faded photograph dated August 3rd, 1945. Me, smiling, holding the same map I used now. Part 18. The forest without exit. I decided to escape Deadwood House. Forever. I ran, climbed ridges, crashed through brush, crossed icy creeks, carved marks in trees. But whenever I looked up, I saw the chimney slanting at the same crooked angle. The forest here defied geography. Space looped, bent, like I was trapped in a loop, or worse, a living echo, where creepy stories weren't stories at all, but prophecy. Part 19. The first ranger. As I collapsed under a pine, he emerged from the woods. A man. Ranger uniform, broad hat, blood dried on his shirt. He didn't speak, just stared with pale, milky eyes. I asked, trembling, Who are you?" He said, "I was the first. You are the last." Then turned and walked into the darkness. Part 20. The Chapel of Forgotten Logs. In a clearing, I found an old wooden chapel. Inside, hundreds of ranger logbooks. Each one belonged to someone who vanished since 1900. Each one a scary, true story buried by time. I found mine. It was already written, name, date, circumstances, voluntarily vanished. No trace. Logged at Deadwood. Part 21. The Whispering Well. I don't know how long I'd been there. Time had long unraveled. Like all true horror stories, the deeper I tried to escape, the deeper it pulled me in. North of Deadwood House, I discovered a stone well, something I had never noticed before. Moss-covered, cold, breathing. I leaned in. A voice echoed, "Daniel, they've seen your face. You can't leave now." It wasn't my voice, or human, but it knew my name, and it whispered like ancient sorrow, the kind you read in the darkest. Let's Not Meet entries. Part 22. The Memory Case. Back in the attic, I found an old suitcase. I swear it wasn't there before. Inside, a ranger badge, family photo notebook, and a rusted pistol. The name on the badge, Daniel Moore. The photo, me, but 20 years older. The notebook described in exact detail the final days of a man also named Daniel, trapped in Deadwood, hearing the same voices, living the same creepy outdoor stories no one believed. Part 23. The VHS tape. There was a VHS tape labeled Ranger number 117. I found a player, powered it on. Static, then a blurred face, slowly clarity. It was me. If you found this tape, I'm Daniel Moore, Ranger at Deschutes. I don't know what year it is. Deadwood's a trap, a closed dimension. It loops, you die, and restart. I've seen myself kill myself so many times. This wasn't just a scary horror story. It was my story. and I was no longer the original version of myself. Part 24, the tree map. I started digging near the well. Like many scary wood stories, I knew something had to be hidden in nature, left behind by those before. Eventually, I found a tree trunk with a map etched inside. Not a map of Deadwood, but a web of ranger stations from the 1920s, many of which had been erased from federal databases. A few aligned with high-profile national park stories of unexplained disappearances. Yosemite, Yellowstone. Deadwood sat atop one of these vortex markers. Part 25. The strangers I knew. That day, I saw 3 people enter Deadwood. Modern clothes, GoPros, backpacks. They were live streaming. I ran out screaming, "Get out now!" But they didn't see me. I watched them walk, laugh, explore, but their voices were distorted like radio static. They weren't in my time. I screamed. They passed through me. I was now one of those living ghosts from stories from Reddit. Those true creepy stories where someone meets a presence that never left. Part 26. Second layer reality. That night I dreamed I escaped. Home in Bend, Oregon. My wife hugged me. My daughter cried, but when I looked at my hands, dirt, bone, rot, I screamed. Woke up in Deadwood. Same cracked ceiling, same sagging bed. This was no longer a dream, no longer a scary story. This was a true story, and I was still inside it. Part 27, the self-writing book. One night, a new book appeared on the table. Brown cover, embossed letters, Deadwood. The Journal of Those Who Stayed. No author. I opened it. Every page recorded my thoughts. Dreams, encounters down to my breath when I saw the creepy park ranger stories unfold around me. Every entry like the most terrifying true creepy stories from Reddit. But I never wrote it. It wrote itself. Part 28, the locked cellar room. Behind an old rug, I found a hidden trap door. The stench beneath was unbearable, like death preserved for decades. Inside a chamber, lined with photos, Zion Glacier, Yosemite. Each tagged with names and dates. These were real victims of real national park stories. Each photo bore one word, delivered. In the corner, a faceless wooden figure. Chest engraved, Ranger 01. I'd read of this in a Let's Read thread. Someone saw it in Montana, then vanished. Part 29. A signal beyond time. I rewired the broken radio. To my shock, it caught a weak transmission. Deschutes. Sector 4. Signal disruption. Report from 1982. This location no longer exists. Ranger Moore, respond if alive. I shouted, "I'm here," but all it repeated was, "No signal, no signal, no." Part 30. The untellable stories inside a dusty desk. I found a typewriter, one page already in it. Day 1000 at Deadwood. I'm no longer myself. This story, no one will believe. But it's real. It's one of those true horror stories that must never be read. I typed. Each letter vanished. Deadwood forbade me to tell it. Part 31. The one filming me, I heard a faint click, a trail cam hidden in the trees. I retrieved the SD card, watched the clip. 12 minutes, me sleeping. But beside the bed stood another me, whispering into my ear. The camera shook slightly, held by a third me, not just creepy stories. This was my scary horror story inside a wilderness with no exit. Part 32. The burned archive. I found a military file in an old drawer. Title: Project Deadwood, Cold War Dimensional Interference Experiment. The notes explained how the U.S. once bombarded national forests with high-frequency signals to open temporal gates. After a mass vanishing in 1967, the project was erased. The final line, the ones left behind, were no longer human. This wasn't just a true story. This was a true horror story, silenced from every stories from Reddit thread that tried to expose it. Part 33, the bottomless pit. A sinkhole appeared near Deadwood House, never there before. I shone my flashlight, no bottom. Dropped a stone, no sound. Next to the pit, scorched into the soil, the only way out is in. I remembered all those scary woods stories, the ones where people jumped in and were never seen again, but never haunted again either. Part 34. The Bleeding Wall. Next morning, I saw blood dripping from the kitchen wall. I touched it, warm, thick, metallic. It oozed again minutes after being wiped clean, as if the cabin itself mourned. I recalled a true creepy story from Reddit where a ranger in Yellowstone saw blood seep from a pine. He vanished for 3 days. When found, he repeated only one phrase: "The forest knows us better than we do." Now I understand. This forest remembers me and won't let me go. Part 35. The Bottomless Basement. I returned to the lower cellar, rope and light in hand, ready to explore what truly lies beneath these creepy park ranger stories. I lowered the light. It fell and kept falling, then laughter. Echoes of every wilderness story never told of rangers whose names faded into moss and decay. A voice entered my mind, crisp and surgical. Every ranger who enters leaves a piece of themselves behind forever. Part 36. The Memory Mirror. By the western window, I found a gold-framed mirror. I swear wasn't there before. It didn't reflect me. It reflected memories, but not mine. I saw a man named Raymond, a ranger from the 1950s. I saw him fall into a sinkhole, arms shattered, drawn by whispers. I saw faces, dozens, hundreds, from creepy stories I once read obsessively in the Let's Not Meet threads. I no longer needed stories. I was inside one. Part 37. The Trail That Wasn't Drawn. I ventured into the unmarked woods behind the cabin. No marks this time. I knew trails here were illusions. Hours later, I found a white stone path. Cold, linear, lined with torn photographs, pieces of national park stories never shared, disappearances never filed. One photo fragment read, "Ranger Cole, finally understood." Part 38. The tape that spoke with my voice. Back in Deadwood House, a recorder blinked on the table. I pressed play. This is Daniel Moore. If you're hearing this, it means I've been replaced. Something in the forest learns you, mimics you. That's why scary true stories repeat. It's the origin of every horror story Reddit deleted. My voice, but not me. Part 39. The Ghost of Ranger Bishop. When I worked as a ranger at Mount Rainier, I witnessed Ranger Bishop vanish sight into the night, only to reappear below Rainier 2 days later, raving on Sir Pear, ceasing to scream, as a bishop at Deadwood's, pale gaunt. I left. I'm still leaving. There's no exit. It's a loop. Only infinite loops. Part 40. The Answering Woods I Never Ran Into. I find a trail that answers, rather echoes, in these woods, mythal. I run doors across times, then intelligence resonating from stories, from national park stories where trails lead to myself or back in time. I see amens into a typical forest burned somewhere. My thought says burring, thruring, engulfing my female voice. I ran, he ran, we all ran. Part 41. The Liminal Forest. I discovered 32 glade where black trees distort and dislort. In these woods I am not in any national park, not in Setoween. The ground is carpeted with notes from past rangers. My note began, I am Amber. I am still 35, will always be 35, because I never dyed anyone else's ret but mine. I shout, where am I? Only to hear my own voice echo back. Part 42. The Ranger Wardrobe. A wooden closet in the attic. I have a Sime 6 Tanger Nellur PDS for Ranger uniforms. All labeled Moore. All I see. I reach out, we pull me in. From wound up to claw at the door. Now Mar, Tivef down our box twists over. My own voices. It was never supposed to be you. It should have been anyone else. It can't be you. If you could trade places, Part 43. The Starless Wilderness. I spent all night straining my eyes upward. but 6 rangers named Daniel, identical to me, all kneeling a let's tread thread. Encounters with starless cess at dawn. I realize it from an absence so dense it consumes all else. I wrote in my tattered notebook, Day 5000 at Deadwood House. The stars never forgot. They left. They know we are no longer worthy of light. Part 44. The Chant. ID returned to Deadwood House at dawn 6. Rangers named Daniel kneeling in the circle. They chant, "There is no way in. There is no way out." Part 45. The Last Face. I remember I stopped dreaming about the old world. No more bend, no sunshine, no soft paths. Now I only see one face in my dreams mine, or what used to be mine. It watches me from mirrors. Each night it gets closer. It never blinks. It doesn't breathe. On night 3000 in Deadwood, it smiled. I realized I'm not Daniel Moore anymore. I'm one of many selves splintered into the glitch of time that made up these creepy park ranger stories. Part 46. The Mirrorless Lake. After rain, I found a pond behind the cabin. It was never there before. Not on any wilderness maps. Not in ranger archives. I leaned in, no reflection, no ripple, just blackness and inverted sky. I tossed a pebble in, no sound. Minutes later, behind me, crunch. Footsteps, heavy, wet. I turned, prints, in the grass, leading toward me. Part 47. Journals of the Undead. Back in the hidden archive under the cabin, I found a false panel. Inside journals, handwritten, every one a true horror story. April 1961. My name is Ranger Henry. I tried to leave Deadwood, but I only go deeper. I hear myself calling from the wind. I no longer know who I am. October 1975. I met someone exactly like me. He smiled and said we swapped places a long time ago. So many stories. So many park ranger stories that never left these woods. Part 48. The Wind Cellar. The wind in Deadwood is sentient. It doesn't move leaves. It whispers. I closed my eyes, heard broken phrases run, "Ranger, stay, stay, dead." I recorded it, reversed it. The playback whispered, "Welcome to the deepest chamber of scary wood stories, where rangers aren't born, only repeated." Part 49. The final variant changes have started. In my skin, my voice, my thoughts, I am splitting. One half still writes, still questions, still clings. The other whispers in foreign tones, writes words I don't remember, laughs into mirrors. One day I walked in, saw myself at the desk, writing, turned back, it was gone, but on the page was scrawled, "I am the last variant of Daniel Moore, and I'm writing this too." Part 50. Repeating but never the same, I began noticing time was folding. Not Groundhog Day, stranger, things reset, but I didn't. A broken chair from last week, fixed. But now my hand had a scar, my eye was swollen. I didn't remember how. This wasn't just creepy stories anymore. This was a true, scary story, reconstructing me piece by piece. Part 51. The hallway where time stops behind the cellar. I found a corridor, short, simple, but as I walked down it, my body reversed. My knees loosened, my lungs cleared. By the middle, I felt 20 again, but my memories gone, etched into the wall. Youth costs memory. I stumbled out, missing 6 years. I couldn't recall when Deadwood began. How many scary stories on Reddit I once read. Only that. I should have never come. Part 52. The Tapes That Can't Be Erased. In the attic, a box of tapes, hundreds, labeled Ranger number from 1941 through 2037. Future tapes. Deadwood Defies Time. I played hour 2037. My voice. This is Daniel. I'm still here. I haven't died, but I think I've lived too many loops to be alive. It ended in laughter mine, but warped, echoing like wind in the wilderness that never ends. Part 53. The entities that replace me. I started seeing more of me in the forest, not mirages. They moved with intent, knew every tree root, every hidden pit. One morning, 3 of them sat by a fire outside Deadwood House. All me, different ages. When I approached, they all turned your turn. Each loop births a version. Each round, fewer survive, fewer remember. Part 54, the edge that isn't escape. I found what I thought was the border of Deadwood, a cliff, wind howling. I screamed into it. Is anyone there? The echo came back in my own voice. Yes, but it's too late. Etched on the rock face, hundreds of names, dates, all part of true creepy stories, never posted online, no endings. I added my own Daniel Moore, 144th Ranger Cycle, Part 55, the last face I recognized. I no longer know who I am. My name might have once been Daniel. I saw another version of me, youthful, focused, utterly calm. No fear in his eyes, just understanding. I asked, "Who are you?" He smiled. "I'm you." I finished the loop. I don't resist anymore. I just record. Then he vanished into the trees. No footprints behind. Part 56. This story was never meant to be told, but it was written. I opened the journal. The next pages had already been written in my handwriting. Day 5566. I've finished the story, but I'm no longer the one writing. I think Deadwood is using me to tell itself. If you're reading this, don't come here. Don't chase these creepy park ranger stories or true creepy stories that lead to the unknown. Because this place never returns anyone, it just makes another copy. Part 57. The Final Ranger and Silence. I stood in the woods. There were no sounds, no birds, no wind, no breathing, just footprints in the dirt, dozens, hundreds, all leading back to one place, Deadwood House. Then my voice spoke. Every true horror story shares one truth: survivors don't tell it. Fear does. I walked into the cabin one last time. Final, if you've made it this far, you may think this was just another scary story for fun. But if you dream of a wooden cabin with a crooked chimney, a bottomless well, or hear whispers from the woods, don't follow them. Because it's not a dream, it's Deadwood. And now, you're next.